Welcome back to Post-War to Postmodern. Let's start back with Ellsworth Kelly, red, blue, green. These are abstractions based on shapes, negative spaces. These are in primary and secondary colors. The figure and the ground are locked into a single unit. They exist on the same spatial plane. We have a red rectangle, a blue curved shape, and then the green ground. This is a very large painting. It is 11 feet wide. Frank Stella, Empress of India. It is 18 feet across. As you can see, the Frank Stella, the Ellsworth Kelly, these have no associations with figures or anything in reality. These are just purely colors and shapes. We have these shades of red and brown with the pinstripe going through them, all in the shape of these arrows or V's. The title doesn't really have any relation to the work of art itself. Donald Judd, Untitled. These are copper boxes. Each box is 9-inch by 40 by 31 inches. There's 9 inches in between each box. So we have this idea of repetition, as well as the idea of the reflection being very important to this. Post-minimalism. Richard Serra, corner prop. So this is a very large lead cube weighing thousands of pounds, and it is precariously propped against the wall with the lead rod. Nothing is securing either piece. So there's the threat that any moment this piece could fall from the corner and possibly even hurt someone. So let's talk about earthworks. This is the idea of creating art by manipulating the natural environment. That's what Robert Smithson did with Spiral Jetty. This is 1,500 feet long, 15 feet wide. He moved 6,650 tons of mud and black basalt to create this spiral. The white stuff on the edges of this is actually salt from the lake that has naturally gathered there. This is Roselle Point at Utah's Great Salt Lake. And eventually this spiral will disappear because of the environment, because of weather. These are not meant to be permanent art installations. They are meant to be temporary. Christo and Jean-Claude. This is Running Fence. This was installed in the Sonoma and Marin counties in California in the 1970s. Christo was born in Bulgaria and Jean-Claude born in France, but they both immigrated to New York. They started working together in the 1960s. And what they do is they come up with these ideas, they do drawings of these projects, and they sell them, and that helps finance the actual installation. They actually pay all of their installers. They do not use volunteers in their projects. Running Fence started out in 1972. It didn't actually happen until 1975. It was 24.5 miles, ending in the ocean. Each segment that you see, each segment here, that is 18 feet. It is also 18 feet high. The cloth is attached to steel poles. It was only displayed for 2 weeks. It took from 1972 until 1975 because they had to work with all of these farmers and ranchers out there. And you can imagine, especially in the 1970s, these two self-described hippie artists coming to these farmers and ranchers and telling them that they wanted to put up this cloth fence on their property. This was a daunting idea to them. The idea was that this would be like a fleet of ships, and this would be like the sails. And again, that would go into the ocean. It cost $3.2 million to create this. Here is it going into the ocean. So you can see the end of Running Fence. And here's a couple of other projects that they worked on. This right here, this is Pont Neuf. That is the famous Parisian bridge. It was wrapped in this yellow fabric in 1985. The pink here, that is Surrounded Islands. This was pink floating fabric that was wrapped around these islands off of the coast of Miami, Florida in 1983. And this one right here, this is called The Gate. The saffron fabric was used in Central Park in New York in 2005. This is their latest project. As far as I can tell, it is still going to go on. We'll see how the pandemic affects this. But the idea is to wrap the Arc de Triomphe in Paris with 25,000 square meters of a recyclable polypropylene fabric in a silvery blue color and use 7,000 meters of red rope. This idea was actually conceived of by Christo and Jean-Claude in 1962. Unfortunately, Jean-Claude has passed away, but Christo is hoping again to continue with this project in the fall of 2020. Romare Bearden, The Prevalence of Ritual, Baptism. Romare Bearden was an African-American artist who was a very big supporter of the civil rights movement. He was a New York University-educated mathematician and philosopher who later became an artist. He works a lot in collages, like you see here, but he's also very influenced by the idea of Cubism. This piece he does in 1964 is focusing on the religious ritual of baptism. This is very important in many Christian communities, especially in African American Baptist culture. We have African masks here and here and here. We can see that these are being substituted for the faces of some of these individuals. Many critics have mentioned that there is a rhythm to Romare Bearden's work, and they liken it to the idea of jazz in visual form. Judy Chicago, The Dinner Party. This is currently at the Brooklyn Museum. Over 400 women worked on this project from 1974 to 1979. It is a feminist piece. It is a triangular table with 39 place settings, 13 to each side. Each honors a specific woman, ranging from ancient goddesses to Georgia O'Keeffe. One side is prehistoric to Roman, one side is Christianity to Reformation, and another is American Revolution to feminism. There are 999 other women's names inscribed on the white floor tiles lying in triangular intersections of the tables. Each place setting includes a hand-painted ceramic plate featuring a vagina executed in a period style. So Emily Dickinson's is surrounded by lace. We have the use of many of the, quote, typical women's areas. Needlepoint, weaving, sewing, painting of china. These are all thought to have been women's, quote, crafts. And so Judy Chicago is utilizing these techniques to illustrate her point on how influential, how important these women were throughout history. So we have Virginia Woolf, Georgia O'Keeffe, Hatshepsut, Emily Dickinson. You can see the variety of people and the variety of styles here. Frank Lloyd Wright, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum. This is Frank Lloyd Wright towards the end of his life. His style is both the same and changed. He's still dealing a lot with nature, but it's a lot more geometric. So the spiral of the museum is based on a snail's shell. This is the interior. When you're walking down the interior ramp, that's what you're seeing here looking down. The ramp actually has a 3% grade. So it's a very gradual pull down. You really have a sense of movement whenever you are looking at this as well as walking down it. There's an enormous skylight above, and there is, as you can see, this pool of water down below. So we have the natural elements of light and water, and then we have the natural element of the shell. Le Corbusier, Notre-Dame d'Orat. This is in Ronchamp, France. The idea behind this is that it is like a ship, possibly even Noah's Ark. So we have the sense of the ship and the bow of the ship here as it comes to this point coming up. There are very thick walls, as you can see here, the thickness. It is masonry walls that are covered with concrete. It is a hollow poured concrete roof that seems to almost float on top of these walls that kind of emanate from the ground. Because it has the shape of a ship, the ceiling actually changes from 32 feet over the altar to 16 feet in the center of the room, so it tips down. And there's actually stained glass windows in some of these openings here. So you can see some of the color emanating through. You can also see how thick these walls are. I thought I would kind of finish off with what is considered to be a very contemporary style of art, and that is graffiti art. And so, of course, I chose the probably most famous graffiti artist right now, and that's Banksy. You might have even seen his latest, the bathroom, that picture that he posted up on social media. So that's how street art has changed from people who are going out in the middle of the night and just painting on buildings and running away, and people might happen upon these works, to now these artists have Instagram and other social media accounts and they're posting up. The other aspect that is worrisome among artists is that graffiti art isn't staying where it was put. So these artists sometimes choose very carefully these locations, sometimes not, depending, but now they're oftentimes taken down. And so you can see that here. One of his most famous images is the rat, and the building's owner decided to take down this piece that he had created. This has actually happened a lot, where people will actually cut out the section of the building that he painted on and remove it and attempt to sell it. Other times people come in and try to deface his work. So it's a really sad state of affairs that is happening with graffiti art today.